stand up as we sing and worship together. Come on, let's put our hands up. Sing this together. There was between us. By the cross you came and broke them down. You broke them down. There were chains around us. By your grace we are no longer bound. No longer bound. You called me out of the grave. You called me into the light. You called my name and then my heart came alive. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Come on, everyone. Oh, sing. Feel the darkness. Feel the darkness shaking. All the dead are coming back to life. I'm back to life. Hear the song awaken. All creation sing we're alive. 'Cause you're alive. You call me out of the grave. You called me into the light. You called my name and then my heart came alive. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. And what love we found, death can't hold us down. We shouted out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. And what love we found, death can't hold us down. We shouted out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. And what love we found, death can't hold us down. We shouted out, we're alive, 'cause you're alive. Your love is greater. Come on. Your love is stronger. See it out. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Oh, 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 your love awakens me. Come on, let's put our hands together. Active, we're so excited just that you're here with us this morning. If you're joining us for the first time, there's a card in front of you in your seat back. We'd love for you to fill that out. And out at our lobby in Get Central, we've got a free gift for you just for being here with us. Let's keep singing and worshiping together. Well, let's celebrate, church. Come on, put our hands together. Sing your love. Your love so great. Jesus in all things, I've seen a glimpse of your heart, a billion years, still I'll be singing. Sing together. How can I praise you in love? How can I praise Sing it out, church. Not to us. Not to us, but to your name. We lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name. We lift up all praise. Come on, every voice. Not to us, to your name. Sing it out. We lift up all praise. Not to us, not to us, but to your name. We lift up all the praise. You are the Lord Almighty. Sing it out. And now shining over the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. You are the Lord Almighty. And outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares. Let this be our prayer together. Not to us. Not to us. Come on. To you. We lift our praise. Not to us. We lift up all the praise. Not to us. To your name. We lift up all praise. Not to us, but to your name, Jesus. We lift up all the praise. You are the Lord Almighty. And outshining all the stars in glory. In your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares with love. You are the Lord Almighty, and outshining all the stars in glory. Your love is like the wildest ocean. Oh, nothing else compares to you, God. Come on, let's give a praise.
One with God, the Lord Most High.
Come on, church, let's lean in. Let's lift our voice.
Hidden glory in creation, now revealed in you are Christ. What a beautiful name it is. What a beautiful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a beautiful name it is. Nothing compares to this.
Lord, we take this moment to just surrender to you, to declare you as the name above all names in our lives. May we sing of your victory, and may we live in a better story that you have for us.
Death could not hold you.
Sing it out.
The veiled door before you. Silence the boast of sin and grave.
The
Heavens are roaring,
the praise of your glory.
for you are raised to life.
Come on, active, the battle has already been won. Sing it out.
You have no rival. You have no equal. Now and forever, God.
Pray it out. Yours is the kingdom.
Yours is the kingdom. Yours is
The
the
glory.
Yours is the name above all names.
What a powerful name it is.
What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. Nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is. The name.
You have no rivals.
You have no rival. You have no equal. Now and forever, God, you reign.
Yours is the kingdom.
Yours is the kingdom. Yours is the glory. Yours is the name above.
Let's declare this with all we've got. What a powerful name.
What a powerful name it is. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus Christ, my King. What a powerful name it is. Nothing can stand against. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus. What a powerful name it is. The name of Jesus.
You know, worship is a moment of prayer with music. I just want to invite you to continue to sing with us. Worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath you could ever breathe. We live for you, God. We sing your name, Jesus. Jesus, the name above every other name. Come on, lift him up. Jesus, the only one who could ever sing. You're worthy, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes, little wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me, Lord. We declare you, you're worthy, worthy of every song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise that we could ever bring. Yes, you are, Lord. worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Sing his name. Jesus, the name above every other name. Oh, Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Let's lean in, church. Sing this out. Holy, holy, yeah. Come on, you take it. There is none. Come on, we can sing it louder, church. Praise him. Show me. You are holy, holy. There is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes to wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me, Lord. Will you lead us, Jesus? God, this is our promise, this is our prayer. And I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love. Please sing holy. I'm holy. There is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. God, we're just so grateful for what you're doing in our lives and that you help us to build a better story. We believe that today, that you are doing something new in us. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. Go ahead and grab a seat, church. Hey, listen, my name is Josh. I'm one of the pastors here. I spend most of my time in Redlands. And what I love about a moment like this is that as we gather here in this church, it is a declaration of unity. right? Even though our culture and our society might be a place that speaks of an us versus a them, here at Active Church, we have made the decision to choose each other. And in this moment, as we step into a moment of communion, it's a declaration of that we choose each other. It's a moment where we reflect on the sacrifice that God has made to prove to humanity that we are worth something, to prove to us that every person here deserves to have a better story in their lives. And so I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward. I'm going to pray really quick, and then we'll partake in this together. God, we just want to thank you for the better story that you're writing in us. And as we partake in these symbols and in this moment of communion, may we remember that you have chosen us and that we get to choose each other as well. We pray this in Jesus' name.
Hey Active Church, I'm Megan and I'm part of the Provide Hope team here.
And I'm Shauna, I'm on the team.
And we are so excited for what's next at Active.
Summer is almost here and we are pumped for what's coming up this month. Stay in the loop by following us on all of our social media platforms.
Yes, Instagram, Facebook, and even YouTube. Take a moment right now to go like, follow, and subscribe.
You'll find content there that is designed to help take that next step. Check them out often to stay up to date and stay connected. If this is your first time here, welcome. Do us a favor. There's a welcome card in the back of the seat in front of you.
Take it and fill it out or text welcome to the number on the screen. Then come see us at Guest Central so we can get to know you, and also we can give you a free gift just to say thank you for joining us.
Next week on June 2nd in Yucaipa will be our first step experience, and we cannot wait to see you all. Also in Redlands, we will have First Step on August 4th. This is a chance to be a part of telling a better story and discovering what God is doing here at Active Church.
First Step is a crucial part of your journey here at Active Church. It's a chance to connect with our active leaders, meet our lead pastor, and share a free lunch together. Childcare is provided, so don't miss it.
Also, towards the end of our service today, we want to invite you to give with us. Your generosity has the potential to change the world, impact lives, and affect our community. You can prepare right now by deciding what to give and how to give. Thank you for being a part of Giving with Us today.
Next week, we've got an exciting new series starting called At the Movies. As we dive into themes of some amazing films and look at the connecting biblical themes, we want to encourage you to experience the room with us over these next 5 weeks.
This fun and exciting series will feature content that we will only be showing live in service and will not be available via live stream. In fact, we are so excited and feel so strongly that you should be in the room that we will be pausing our live stream over these 5 weeks. It's that important that you be in the room and invite others to do the same.
Again, tell a friend, spread the word, and join us in the room for At the Movies starting next week on June 2nd.
Lastly, listen up, moms and dads. Kids Blitz is coming, and we are so excited. Kids Blitz is a free 3-day action-packed event for students in grades kindergarten through 5th grade.
Over the course of 3 days, students will engage in doing unique crafts, hearing from memorable speakers, dancing to unforgettable songs, and making memories that will last them a lifetime. It's a high-energy environment designed specifically for them.
That's all the announcements for today.
Thank you again for joining us today. Our service will continue in just a moment.
Well, guys, as we close out our conversation, I just want to say thank you again for having the boldness and the courage to share. I know that these stories are going to impact people's lives. They're going to change people's lives. I really believe that. And I feel honored to get to share a little bit about myself. I feel like the newbie a little bit in the group, and I don't mean that in a diminishing way at all. I just feel kind of new to this, and so I'm thankful to get to sit here with you guys. I didn't really understand mental health or even anxiety or panic attacks before I kind of started to experience it. And about 1.5 years ago, something occurred in my life that was high stress, felt like a loss, and was just kind of a huge pressure situation in my life. And out of that spawned anxiety and spawned occurrences of panic attacks for me. I didn't understand it again, and so it took a few times of experiencing it. And what I mean by experiencing it was these feelings of not being able to breathe, heart racing, mind racing, not being able to kind of control where your thoughts are going, not being able to tell yourself like, I'm not going to die in this moment. And it's almost unexplainable when you're in it. You want to be able to tell yourself that you can get out of it, but it's really difficult. And so it took a few trips to the ER. It took a trip to Disneyland where I didn't really understand what was going on with myself and feeling like I couldn't breathe all day, feeling like I was going to die. After my second or third trip to the ER, I was finally told that that's what I was dealing with. I was dealing with anxiety. I was dealing with panic attacks. And so it took being told that by a doctor and then going, okay, this is my new normal. How do I adjust to it? How do I figure it out? And I can only say, through the grace of God, through some great conversations that I was able to have with people that spoke into my life, my wife, obviously, being there by my side those nights where I'm lying awake and I'm sweating and I feel like I just don't have control over my thoughts, over my body, and her helping me get through. But I would just say to anybody that's experiencing that and dealing with it, to talk to somebody. Like you guys have all said, I think it's amazing advice that to know you're not alone. The more you reach out and talk to people, the more you realize there's so many people around me that are dealing with the same thing. And we're surrounded by amazing people in this world and in our church that want to be there for us. Obviously seeking professional counsel as well. Taking care of yourself, I would say for me has been a big one. Constantly exercising, constantly just taking stock of my personal health and well-being. But thank you guys again, and I'm honored to be among you. And I'm just thankful that we've gotten to share in this combo.
Good morning, Active Church. I'm so thankful that you are here today. We are one church with 2 locations, and I've been so honored to be a part of this series where we have talked honestly about mental health. The private stories that you have shared with me, along with the public stories, have been such a good thing for us, for our church, and specifically for me. Ways that we've learned about how you're facing your mental health journey and how we can best help you and pray for you and step into healing with you. And so churches, could we just, at both locations, could we just say thank you through our applause to those that have shared their stories? Yeah. And if you are new around here, whether here in Yucaipa or you are a guest in Redlands, we want to welcome you. My name is Mike, and I serve on the team here at Active Church. And if you haven't yet, there's a welcome card in your seat back. You can fill that out, or you could text welcome to the number on the screen. Either way, you can bring it to Guest Central afterwards. If you brought somebody new, get them to Guest Central, and we would love to exchange that card for a gift. A couple of things that I want to let you know about before we dive in. First, tonight, if you are a 6th to 12th grader, we want to invite you to come and hang with us at Active Youth. Tonight is the final night that we're going to be meeting on Sunday night at 6 p.m. And then starting in 2 weeks, we're moving it to Tuesday night at 6:30. And this is going to be the best summer ever. And so I hope that you will jump in and join us. If you're a parent of a student in 6th grade to 12th grade, invite them, bring them tonight, and then remind them of June 11th, a Tuesday night at 6:30. We would love to have your student be a part of that. I was the youth pastor here for 12 years, and so I have a great passion for our students, and I want to invite you to come. My friend, Drew Rodriguez, will be sharing with us tonight. He's an incredible activator at Redlands. Pastor Joe will be there. Pastor Josh will be there. I think that that's incentive enough to come. They bring the energy and the good looks, right? And so they're going to be there tonight, and I would invite you to come and hang with us tonight. And then in 2 weeks, we're relaunching Active Youth on June 11th at 6:30 p.m. And then you've heard in the announcements that we are beginning a brand new series next week called At the Movies. We're looking at faith and film, and God's truth can be found in film. And maybe you aren't aware of it yet, but God teaches us some really great things that are in the pages of the scriptures, that are borrowed, that are used in our favorite films. And so we want to invite you to bring someone you love to our services next week. As you've heard, we're not going to be live streaming due to copyright information. We're going to be showing parts of the movie, and we can't live stream that. And so Redlands, bring your friends to your location. Yucaipa, bring your friends to this location. If you're normally an online watcher or you know an online watcher, get them in the room over the next 5 weeks. But don't be afraid, never fear. We will relaunch our live stream in July. Today is the final conversation in this series, The Struggle is Real. And it's been an honest conversation about mental health. And just because the series is ending today doesn't mean the conversation has to end. Last week, we ended with an invitation to you. If you're somebody that's facing the journey ahead as you're facing a mental health diagnosis, or maybe you know someone who is, we invited you to be a part of what we're calling a share group. A group where you can come and hear stories of hope, hear stories of healing, and a group where you can share your personal story as well. And if you'd like to be a part of that, all you need to do is text TALK to the number on the screen. And it'll give you all the information in a text message of when our first gathering will be there. I will personally be there, and I would love for you to come and hang out with us, because you can tell a better story. We believe, are convinced that God has given you a race to run. And we want you to run that race with courage. We want you to run that race with confidence, which is why today I think will be the most important conversation that we have in this series, The Struggle is Real. I bumped into a principle years ago, a principle that I've put into practice in my life that has changed what I do privately so that I can be courageous publicly. And I want to share that with you today. I didn't have language for it until recently, but I discovered it actually when I was in high school. I learned in high school that no matter what I do, there will always be someone in my life that is more than me. Do you know what I mean by that? There's always going to be someone who's better, stronger, taller, better looking than me, right? And I know you're shocked by that, right? My mom is. But there was always going to be someone who's more than me. It was at the end of my sophomore year that I decided that the story that God wanted to tell in me was one that I was keeping in me. And I decided I want that story to get out of me. See, I was quiet, and I was shy, and I was awkward. And so far I've worked on the quiet and shy. It's the awkward that I just can't seem to shake. But standing on a stage like this would have freaked me out. I wouldn't make eye contact with people. I was just so afraid to speak up. It was the end of my sophomore year that I decided that I didn't like that story, that there was a better race for me to run. And so I signed up for ASB, for student council. And I signed up to be a part of the creative events team, the team that would put on the dances and the rallies. And our first gathering, as an ASB group, we needed somebody to be the pep rally guy. The guy that would rile up the staff, that would rile up the students, that would rile up the school. And people started talking and making suggestions, and I raised my hand, and I said, and our teacher was Mrs. Boatman, and I said, "Hey, Boat, I'll do it." And she goes, "Frisch, that's awesome." And she writes my name down, and there was a collective groan from all of my peers. Because I was quiet and I was shy, but I thought to myself, game on. Challenge accepted. And so we created this moment. It was a great rally, and then my 2 to 3 minutes came up. And they put a mic in this mic's hand, and I walked out to the center of that gym. The lights went down, the fog started moving, the lasers started going, the music started playing, and for 2 minutes, I had this place rocking. They were chanting, they were singing, they were yelling, and by the time I finished, they were fist pumping to "Don't Stop Believing," and they were shouting out our school mascot's name. And I walked off that court, and I invented the mic drop that day. Not this mic drop, but this mic literally dropped when I went off the court. All of the emotions and all of the feelings, I just was overwhelmed, and I sat down exhausted. And then the lights came up and the rally was dismissed, and I had people lining up say to me, "That was so good, Mike. That was so awesome. This was the best rally we ever had." And because I'm fighting against this quiet and shy Mike, it was a moment of anxiety for me, because I wanted to look them in the eyes and say thank you. They gave me high fives and fist bumps, no hugs, because I was a sweaty mess. And then it happened. I was reminded that there will always be an because up walks Delilah. And if you are named Delilah or you have a kid Delilah, you should change that name, all right? She walks up and she looks at me and starts to bop her head, right? And she says, "That was okay, but Chad is better." Now, you don't know Chad, but I know Chad. Chad was the pep rally guy the last 2 years. Chad had graduated from school and was no longer in high school. Chad was the type of guy that was charismatic and dynamic. He used to wear a court gesture hat with little bells every day to school. He was the guy that when he wasn't trying to be funny, he was funny. And I wanted to be like him. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to step into this role. And then what happened in that moment changed me in the next. Because I enjoyed that pep rally, but I never enjoyed the pep rallies I was a part of moving forward. Because in that moment, I decided that I was going to be the best pep rally guy that this school had ever seen. And I was going to make sure that they forgot the name of Chad. And I didn't enjoy what I did. I didn't enjoy the rallies that we put together, because I spent so much time in competition with Chad. And here's the irony. Chad didn't even know my name. Chad didn't care if the pep rallies were good because he graduated. But I spent my high school career comparing myself to him. And that's when I bumped into this principle, which I think will be really beneficial for us as we're facing mental health, or if we're loving someone who's facing mental health. The principle is this: there is no win in comparison. Because if there was a win, we would have found it by now. If there was a finish line, we would have crossed it by now. The irony is that those that we're competing with and comparing ourselves with, they don't even know they're in competition with us. And what comparison does is it puts the dis in discontentment, doesn't it? Suddenly you're not satisfied. Suddenly you're not enjoying what it is that you believe that God has created you to enjoy. Suddenly your whole life is about keeping up with them, comparing yourself to them. And you know what happens in those moments? Maybe publicly you're like, I'm gonna be better, I'm gonna be stronger, I'm gonna be smarter. But you know how we feel privately? We feel like we're the worst, don't we? I'm never gonna be what they are. How come I can't be like them? I discovered that there's no win in comparison. That language wasn't language that I created. It was language actually that I discovered in the pages and in the documents and in the letters that we call the Bible. One of the most significant authors of the Old Testament is a man named Solomon. He was called the wisest man who ever lived. And he wrote 3 documents in the Old Testament where he spoke about this very issue. One of them, he talks about how I want to give you wise things moving forward. And then the other, he talks about his own personal experiences. It's as if Solomon is addressing the moments in our lives where we say, man, if I only had that. If I only had their doctor, their support system, their meds, their environment, if I only had what they had, then everything would be great for me. And Solomon's response to that is, yeah, I was there once. I compared myself once. I was competing once. And you know what I figured? You know what I discovered? I've been there and I've done that. And I found myself living with discontentment. One of the letters that he writes to us is Proverbs. And in Proverbs 14:30, he says, a heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. You cannot compare yourself to contentment. You cannot compare yourself to peace. This is Solomon's kind and easy and simple way to look us in the eyes and to say, knock it off. But if you're a parent, or you have been in charge of young children at some point in your life, you know that knock it off is never something that works, right? Telling your kids to knock it off means that they might stop in that moment, but it doesn't change their next. And so what I love about what Solomon does for us is that he helps us to navigate what it means to move from a life of comparing and competing into a life where we are running our race and we're telling a better story. Solomon understands that we need a place to go mentally when we start to drift emotionally. We need some good words on our lips when our hearts start to long for the thing that we weren't created for the race that we weren't designed to run, and for the story that we weren't made to tell. And so what I love about what we're going to dive into today is the words of Solomon help us to stay focused on what God created us for. Wherever you are, whatever you're facing, this is for everybody today. That we can run the race marked out for us. That we can tell a better story. And so if you brought a Bible with you today, or if you have the app on your phone, I want to invite you to turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 4, and we'll start in verse 4. Ecclesiastes comes after Psalms and Proverbs in the Old Testament, and if you don't know where you're going, you're completely lost, this is new to you, that's okay. We'll have the scripture on the screen for you at both of our locations. Ecclesiastes is Solomon's evaluated experience. Not just his experiences, but his evaluated experiences. He has filtered them through the race he is running, what the story is that God wants him to tell, and he is sharing his wisdom with us. And he gives us 3 phrases and 1 question that we can ask ourselves and we can put on our lips to be able to move forward and to stay focused. These are not magical phrases that if you say them, then everything's gonna be all right. They're just phrases that allow your heart and your mind to refocus on the race that you are to run and the story that you were created to tell. And he begins this way in verse 4 of chapter 4. I saw that all labor and all achievement spring from man's envy of his neighbor, and this too is meaningless. He begins to address very honestly what it is that you and I are doing. Everybody's competing. Everybody's comparing, and it's driven out of this envy, this desire to have the thing that they have instead of wanting the thing that they were created with, the race that they were meant to run. It's as if he's saying to us, everybody is determining where they are based on where everybody else is. And we're living in this life where we're in competition, and the people that we're in competition with don't know that we're competing against them. You want to know why? Because they're competing against other people who don't know that they're competing against them. And he says, this is meaningless. And then he gives us our first phrase. He says, a chasing after the wind. Which means that it's pointless. It's endless. There's no peace. There's no winner. Have you ever chased the wind? I'm not talking about like feeling the wind. You felt the breeze on your front porch, or maybe you felt the Santa Ana wind that comes through Southern California, or maybe you stood in front of a fan and you pretended you were Beyonce and you let that wind blow you back. Like, I'm not talking about that. You ever tried to chase the wind? You can't capture it. You can't bottle it. It's not something that you can say, I'm finished, I've got it. It's endless and it's pointless. There's no winner. There's no peace. And Solomon gives us our first phrase in those moments where we're competing and we're comparing. He says, in those moments, pause, take a breath, and then say this out loud about your story and your race. That's chasing the wind, and I don't chase the wind. When you find yourself competing, you say out loud, that's chasing the wind, and I don't chase the wind. When you find yourself comparing, you say out loud, that's chasing the wind, and I don't chase the wind. Because there's no win in comparison. Because if there was, you're smart, you would have found it by now. But he's not finished. Because often when we hear a phrase like that, we might lean into the direction of, well, then maybe we just don't do anything. Maybe we just live a passive life. Maybe we look at the lives of those around us and we say, live and let live, right? That's not what he's saying here. He actually addresses that thought because he has evaluated his experiences of been there, done that. And Solomon writes this in verse 5, the fool folds his hands and ruins himself. He sits and does nothing. And then I love this, probably one of the most important scriptures in all of the Bible. Better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing the wind. Most of us live this way. And we talk about how we're fighting and we're grinding and we're moving. But if you were to open up your hands, what you would discover is that you're competing and you're comparing, and it's killing you because you think you should be where they are right now. You think you should run that race and tell that story, and God says, no. You have a story to tell and you have a race to run, which is why Solomon says, better one hand of tranquility. You know what tranquility is? Satisfaction. Better one hand of satisfaction. Better one hand of contentment. Better one hand of joy. Better one hand of gratitude than two hands of ingratitude and discontentment. You know what one hand teaches us? It teaches us how to be healthy in our relationships. And this is where the second phrase comes in. When we're competing and we're comparing, we can say to those around us, hey, that's chasing the wind. I don't chase the wind. But then when we get into relationships and we see people getting healthy and finding hope and doing better, you know what we can say to them? Here's the words we can put on our lips. I'm so happy for you. Now, tone and body language matters in those moments, doesn't it? Because I'm so happy for you is not a reflection of what Solomon is writing here. But there's a freedom I'm so happy for you. There's a freedom in celebrating instead of competing. There's a freedom in celebrating instead of comparing. See, we've convinced ourselves that more is better. But what Solomon writes here is less is more when the less you hold is what you were created for. Better one hand of satisfaction than two hands of toil and chasing the wind. Better one hand of celebration than two hands of comparing and competing. But then he's not done. He brings up probably one of the most important questions we could ask as we take the next right step. He writes this, again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There was a man all alone, no son, no brother. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. And then here's the question. For whom am I toiling? Maybe it means something to you if I put it this way. Who am I doing this for? Notice it's not what or why. It's who, because who is personal and it influences your what and your why. Who are you doing this for? Why are you trying to get healthy? Who is the who behind the why? Are you doing it because they are? Are you trying to run this race because it's really the race over here that they're running that you want to run? Are you trying to tell this story because it's their story and you think you should tell this story? Or perhaps the who is you. That you're doing this to become a better version of you. In the mental health world, they call this self-care. Where you recognize that you need to be healthy because when you're healthy, those around you that you love benefit from your health. You're a better dad, you're a better mother, you're a better husband, you're a better son, you're a better wife, you're a better cousin, you're a better employee, you're a better anything. When you decide to choose to get healthy because you're doing this for you, that self-care is an important thing. But may I suggest to you that it's not the only thing. That you should not be the only one that's caring for yourself. And here's why. Because you're not always good to you. I think we all can be honest about that. You are not always good to you. You're not always what's best for you. And so may I suggest that you have a greater who behind you. We call him God. His name is Jesus. Because he is the one that created you, knows you, loves you, died for you, rose again for you, forgives you, gives you grace, compassion, mercy, holiness, righteousness, will not let you down, will not turn his back on you, will not run away from you, is in this thing with you for the long haul. His name is Jesus, and he longs and desires to be our Lord and to be our Savior because he understands that we can trust us in his hands. This is who God is. One writer, his name was Jeremiah, wrote this, and you might know this verse if you've been around the church for a while, even if you haven't been. Jeremiah says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and to not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." This is the God that you are entrusting the self to. And you can be confident of this, that he who begins a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. That you can self-care, and the greatest self-care is when you put the self in the hands of the God who cares. That's the greatest decision that you can make. That's the greatest who behind you. Who are you doing this for? I want to do this because Jesus Christ is the one who moved and loved first. And I want to entrust myself to him. And I love Solomon's question at the end of all of this. He's like, why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? Why am I missing out on the race that I am designed to run and the story that I'm supposed to tell? Why am I trying to compete? I'm missing my life. I got two hands full of toil instead of one hand filled with tranquility. And what Solomon understood, and maybe perhaps you're going to understand today after we have this conversation, is somebody somewhere thinks that you're the luckiest person on earth. because you have an incredible race to run and a powerful story to tell, but you don't know how lucky you are because you don't know who you're doing this for. You haven't answered the question. Who am I doing this for? I don't want to compete. That's chasing the wind. I don't chase the wind. I'm so happy for you. You know who I'm doing this for? Doing this for the God who is for me. And you'll never discover God's purpose in your life if you're always distracted by someone else's purpose, by someone else's story. Which is why Solomon concludes this letter with one of the most powerful evaluations of his experience. He writes this: here's the conclusion of the matter. Honor God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. Honor God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. The phrase that I believe that Solomon wants to put on our lips after we say that's chasing the wind. I don't chase the wind. I'm so happy for you. You know who I'm doing this for? I'm doing this for the God who is for me, which means that I can say confidently and courageously, God has given me a race to run. The reason why I have language for this principle is because I battle with this almost every day. And there have been times in my life where I've bumped up against comparison and realized how much I put myself down and live in this rhythm of I'm the worst. And I can point back to that moment in high school where it really all began. You know what's interesting about the role that I get to play here at Active? Is that there's a battle in my heart and in my mind in competing and comparing all the time. See, some of you know me as youth pastor Mike because I was here for 12 years as a youth pastor. And you have stories to tell that I don't want you to tell anybody, all right? And some of you know me as executive pastor Mike because I met you at First Step and Next Steps. I was a part of your baptism and we've seen God do some great work in and through you. When I was brought to this opportunity to step into this role, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming because I'm a comparer and I'm a competer. And the last two people that held this role before me were people that were good at what they did. One could fire up a dead crowd. The other could love that dead crowd to life. One could rile up your energy and help you to take your next right step, and the other could wrap you with his arms and remind you of how much you're loved. And so when I stepped into this role, I found myself competing with those two. They didn't know it. They weren't aware of it. And they would tell me to stop it, to knock it off. And by God's great grace in my life, I have an incredible friend who early on took me out to lunch, and as we're eating hamburgers, he said something to me as I'm sharing this with him. He said something to me so nonchalant, so off the cuff, that I know it was God speaking through him, and it just slammed into my chest and moved my heart. He said, between bites of his hamburger, he said, Mike, I think that your superpower is genuineness and authenticity. And I said, thanks. And he goes, I'm not done. He said, so if you're not genuinely you and authentically you, everybody who walks into that room and everybody who walks into the room at Redlands and everybody you interact with and all of those that watch online are gonna sniff it out. So stop it and be you. You have a story to tell. And you have a race to run. And that wrecked me because it reminded me that God is doing a good work in me and God is doing a good work in you. One of my favorite authors is Jordan Peterson. He wrote a book called The 12 Rules of Life. And he said this in that book: compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. So if you're gonna compare, let's take a look at your story. And let's be a better version of who we were yesterday. We can look to others for inspiration, but not imitation. Because you can't compare your way to peace. A heart at peace gives life to the body, but envy rots the bones. I don't chase the wind. I will run my race. I don't chase the wind. I will run my race. Would you say that with me at both of our locations? Redlands, would you join this? On the count of three, let's just say this phrase together. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I don't chase the wind. I will run my race. And if that doesn't convince you, if Solomon doesn't convince you, and if Jordan Peterson hasn't convinced you, then let the great theologian Bruce Springsteen convince you. When he's saying, baby, we were born to run. Right? Now, I mentioned high school, and maybe you got anxious because you thought about your high school career as well, right? In high school, I was a track athlete. I know that you immediately went, yep, you're right, you were, right? When you saw my body. You think athlete when you see this guy, I know. But there was a race that I ran in high school called the 4x400 meter relay. It always was the finishing race. It was always at the very end of the track event. And the last lap, they would call the bell lap. The bell lap was the most important lap. It was the lap that you needed to expend all of your energy, you needed to focus all of your mind, and you needed to do the best that you can. And I thought to myself, how appropriate is that for us as we decide today to run our race and not compete and compare? And so in just a moment, I want to give you an opportunity to run the bell lap. I want to invite you to hang with us in this moment because we're going to end in a different way. But at both of our locations, here in Yucaipa and in Redlands, you'll see some bells at the front of the stage. And in just a minute, I'm going to invite the team to come out and lead us in a song at both of our locations. And as we sing this song, would you run the bell lap by stepping out of your row, walking up to the front of the stage and ringing the bell? And when you do, what I can promise you is that I will celebrate big. Because what you're saying in that moment is that I will run my race, I will not chase the wind. This is the story that I want to tell. And it might seem different, it might seem new to you, but it's a way that we announce to everybody a part of Active Church that we are focusing our attention on the God who created us, and we are moving in the direction of the God who loves us. And so in this next moment at both of our locations, we're going to sing real loud, and we're going to ring some bells as a way of saying that this is the race that I'm running. I'm not chasing the wind anymore. So Redlands, I'm praying for you. And I want to invite you to run the bell lap today. In this moment, I want to invite the team in Redlands and Pastor Joe to come to the stage. And for us, I want to invite you to run the bell lap. I want to invite the team to come out. We're going to sing together a song that's really been the theme of this whole series, that God is bigger than we thought he was. And so don't be afraid to move out of your chairs. Don't be afraid to come and ring the bell. If you're the first person, you're the most courageous person in this place this morning. Let's sing this song together. Let's run the bell race together. Would you stand to your feet? Josh and the team are going to lead us, and let's celebrate the work of God in our lives. There's a better story. There's a better race. Let's do this together as a church. God bless you guys. Let's sing this song together.
We find our freedom. Speak to me when the silence steals my voice. You understand me. You understand me. Yeah, come on, let's celebrate. And come to me in the valley of unknowns. You understand me. You understand me. You understand me, God. You understand me. And I throw all my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. I believe, but help my unbelief. You understand me. You understand me. Oh, and help me reach the faith that's underneath. You understand me. You understand me. Come on, active, sing it out. You understand me, God. You understand me. And I throw my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought you were. Bigger than we thought. Hey, you're bigger. I will rest in the Father's hands. Come on, every voice. And leave the rest in the Father's hands. I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. Sing it together. And I will rest in the Father's hand. Leave the rest in the Father's hand. I will rest in the Father's hands. Leave the rest in the Father's hands. And I'll throw my cares before you. My doubts and fears don't scare you. You're bigger than I thought you were. You're bigger than I thought. So I stop all negotiations with the God of all creation. You're bigger than I thought you were. 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 We celebrate you this morning. For the victory, my Jesus. Come on, church, let's get up there.
That's chasing the wind. I don't chase the wind. I'm so happy for you. I know who I'm doing this for. God has given me a race to run. That's what we said when we rang that bell. And even if you came and rang the bell because you wanted to, because your inner junior hire told you that you need to come up and ring the bell, and even if you weren't able to come up and do that, God hears you, knows you, and believes in you. And he wants you to run your race. There's no win in comparison. competing is something that we're going to give up today so that we can celebrate the work of God in our lives and in the lives of those around us. I want to pray for you. God, thank you. Thank you that we are a people that you love when we're so undeserving of your love. Thank you that we are a people that you care for when we are often uncaring. And thank you that we are people that you celebrate when we spend a lot of our time comparing. And so we ask for your forgiveness and repent of that today. Whether we're new to this or we've been doing this for a long time, God, meet us where we're at in this moment. In Jesus' name. Would you have a sit for just a minute? It's in this moment that we as a church practice generosity, where we give back to the mission and the vision of what God is doing at Active. And what we just experienced in this room, in this moment, is just a small taste of what our resource goes towards. We create a space for people who may feel a bit lost, who may feel hopeless, that decide that they are not going to stay there. And in a space like this, at both of our locations, when we give back, we open up the opportunity for people to meet Jesus and learn to follow Jesus. And so I want to invite you to give with us today. Your generosity, it changes worlds. And there are 4 ways that you can give. In just a moment, our leaders are going to pass some buckets in front of you. You can also give online at activechurches.com. There's a giving kiosk in the lobby, and you can text to give, texting give to the number on the screen. Leaders, I want to invite you to come down and begin to collect the offering this morning as an opportunity for us to practice generosity. At whatever level you give, know that it is used to honor God and to create a space for people to meet Jesus and learn to follow Jesus. Thank you for giving. Leaders, go ahead and pass those buckets. Active Church, thanks for running the bell lap. Thanks for saying that you don't chase the wind. Thanks for honoring God in your race and in your story. I want to invite you next week to come back and to be with us as we launch a new series at the movies, but also at 12:30 in our events room is First Step. And I would love for you to come and see how God can move in your story and how you can move from being a fan of Active Church to being a part of the family. If you haven't been in a long time, come back. If you have never been to First Step, come and hang with us next week. And if you're a guest, make sure that you stop by Guest Central as you leave here today. God bless you guys. I love you. Thanks for being here today. Have a great rest of your Sunday.